Well, I'll call the meeting to order at 6:06 and we'll do a roll call. I'll start. Kelly Tarbell.
Julie McKenzie.
You.
Jen McCulkey.
Carol Hammond.
Amber Wilson.
Dave Venner.
Dave Martin.
Maria Gambino.
Lane Millington.
Emma Vestola.
All right, and that sounds like everybody. Perfect. All right, let me switch back to the agenda here. Approval of the agenda. Any additions or deletions? I have one quick question. I have messed up my email because they made me change my password in the middle of summer, and that's just not a good idea, apparently. Like every teacher has had the same dilemma. So I've lost a bunch of things in my email, and I don't have, and I can't find the policies that were to be discussed, and I can't find the documents for the school choice. So if I'm the only one without them, we can probably discuss them, but if everybody didn't get them, we should probably table them or move them to next time or something.
They were in the agenda online as well, the board packet. I'm not sure how Kelly gets them to you.
That's what I'm looking at right now. And I don't have them unless I'm being, I don't.
Things open up online.
Kelly, can I forward them to you, or you can't get access to your TRSU email?
Nope, I worked on it all morning so that I could get access. If you can forward them to me, that would be great.
Okay. I think it's just wait a minute. No.
Mine says agenda and meeting minutes, and that's all I've got.
That's all there is.
No, there were more. Hold on.
Well, there should be policies for us to look at,
Yeah.
as well as those documents from the school choice.
All I had was those two ones. What's it, you know?
It's accessible through your calendar if you have your Google Calendar open. There should be a meeting there, and you can open it up, and it'll have all the documents. If not, then what we'll need to do is I'll make sure we streamline a process that works for folks.
Yeah, I'm looking. I've got meeting minutes a second way.
If you click on the calendar invite.
I do.
Yeah.
It's different. That's not how I've normally gone in. So, but I actually like that better. Okay, so I've got it. So we're good. I'll keep going then, unless anybody else had additions or deletions. We're all good? Okay. Approval of the June 12th, 2024 meeting minutes.
Are we moving to approve the agenda first?
Yeah, we need to approve
Oh,
it.
I'm sorry. I'm all out of whack.
Make a motion.
All right.
to approve.
Did somebody second the motion?
Yeah.
Okay, so all those in favor of approving the agenda as it's written?
All right.
All right.
Everybody online all set?
Yes, sorry. I'm on my phone and I can't find my unmute in time.
All right, we'll move on. Sorry, this is going to be chaotic, but approval of minutes. Okay, so now we're on approval of minutes from
Right.
June 12th, 2024.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion about those minutes? All right, everybody approving the June 12th meeting minutes signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect, we will move onward.
Kelly,
Yeah,
I just want to make sure that everybody on the board got a copy of the minutes, and I'm using that in air quotes, of the retreat, since LMH didn't have a quorum. There aren't official minutes, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody got a copy of what I sent out.
I believe I did. I'd have to look on my phone at the moment to do it, but I'm pretty sure I did.
I'm happy to
I feel like I read through them and
I'm happy to resend.
I don't. Checks, I don't know whether I got it or not.
Yeah, I think I looked at it. But it was a long time ago.
Okay, and we don't need to approve them because they were unofficial anyways, right?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Board member comments.
I'd like to make one comment, just that in the spring, the board sort of belatedly realized that Ludlow seemed to have fewer teachers compared to the number of students that they had in a couple of situations. And I just appreciate a report next month from the administration and principals about how many kids have actually shown up in the different classes and how they're being staffed and whether it's sufficient. You know, should we as a board be looking for ways to give more support? What it looked like last spring was the first and second grade had a large class and not as much help as they did in Mount Holly. So I don't have an opinion, just to hope that we'll look at the issue next month when we have more information.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other board member comments?
So, yeah, I have one that maybe as a follow-up to the fact that Mount Holly, the town thereof, billed the school $600.25 for the election. I guess it was the two extra votes, I guess, not the first vote. I tried mightily to get them to pull it and they won't. They're out of it. So we owe them money.
Okay, is that, I'm sorry, you kind of faded off at the end there. Was there a question or just a statement that you tried and it didn't work?
It didn't work, so I guess we tabled the paying the bill, I guess, unless Cheryl did it.
No, I didn't pay the bill. I was waiting for your approval. And I think one of the comments was that they would split it with us. So at the most, that's what I would pay. And Lauren was adamant that we weren't paying for food.
I thought my memory is, I guess we could look at the minutes. My memory is that we asked for someone to come from the town because it's somewhat of an extraordinary request. We've never paid for that before. That's precisely why it would be helpful for whoever is making this request to come and explain to us what the story is.
I was not at the June meeting, but I do remember that vaguely from the meeting minutes as well. I mean, I know it costs them money. I sort of agree about the food. I don't know that we're responsible to feed them during the day. I don't know how that works, but it does cost them to hold an election. I mean, I don't know if they were willing to split it with us. I'd say we should do that minus the food and see where it lands, but that's just my opinion.
I'm not sure. What feels like it needs further investigation from my perspective is that we have to know these costs in advance. We can't just receive. There's something that feels not right about us just getting a bill for something that we don't have any control over. There's no other way that we can conduct an election. They are the exclusive party that can hold and conduct an election for us. So these seem like things that should be sorted out on the front end rather than, you know, the school board having no choice and then getting a bill after the fact.
It was interesting. Well, I say from my perspective in the town office, because I basically said that I felt that this was one of the core responsibilities of a town is to run elections. And I said, this is turned into, sounds like an adversarial relationship is developed and I don't know why. So I don't know, I may be persona non grata now in the town office. I wouldn't mind having somebody come here and explain it though. Let them.
Is there a district treasurer? Do you have that's at the annual meeting?
Yeah, Ula.
What's that?
Yeah, Ula.
Because usually that's
one of the people that help arrange for the election and the district clerk.
She's also, sorry, Elaine, she's also the town clerk in Ludlow. So she would fill the same position in the town of Ludlow that Carol Garrow-Woolley does in Mount Holly. So I would assume they're communicating about it.
Yeah, because usually it's the district treasurer that comes from the annual meeting, and the district clerk are the ones that arrange for the elections and kind of do all the back legwork. I don't know if that's happened in the past, but I'm happy to kind of connect with folks and try to get some information and double check given your organizational structure to make sure that we're following what we're supposed to.
Sounds good to me. And then we'll talk about it again in a month.
Yeah.
It might
Okay.
be perfectly reasonable for us to pay this bill. I just think these are arrangements that should be made beforehand about how all this will work.
Okay. So do we need a motion to hold off on the bill? No, we don't, right?
We've already tabled it.
Right. Okay. My only board member comment would be just to welcome Lane. Thank you for joining us in our first official Ludlow-Mount Holly meeting.
Thank you.
Any other board comment? None, then I will move to public comment. Do we have public in the pub? I don't see anybody else up here. Nobody in line. All right, I think we are good. Superintendent's report.
So, lots of odds and ends. Currently, I'm actually starting even earlier than July when I was able to come out and visit some of the schools. I've been engaged in an informal entry plan into the district. A lot of the work up front was kind of a document review. Lately, most of my time has been spent trying to meet with people in and around the community and staff members and all the people that are stakeholders within the district. It's been a little complicated because it's been summertime. And a lot of people are out, doing fun things. So I'm going to have another round of connecting with folks as soon as the schools are back in session. And I'm hoping to have this kind of wrapped up by the end of October. I have gone ahead and set the first of the open forums that I usually hold for the community. So the first one for Ludlow-Mount Holly will be at Mount Holly at 6 p.m. on September 3rd in the Mount Holly Elementary School's library. A little bit of it, we're going to spend some time there talking about education funding in Vermont, because we're about a month and a half away from having to start our budget discussions, and try to make sure that the community understands how it works, because it doesn't work the way that people think. And there are ways that we can leverage it to our advantage, especially given some of the needs that the district has. And so that'll be kind of the purpose of that meeting. And then afterwards, maybe the last half hour or so will be just a literal open session where anything that's on people's minds and they want to discuss, we'll do that. Prioritized work right now. One of the things that I'm doing is I'm doing an audit in the district against the quality standards the state of Vermont puts out. Their quality standards are basically a big list of all the regulations and things that we're supposed to be doing and have in place. And so I figured that was a good place to start. We had an initial discussion at the administrative cabinet meeting last week. We're going to begin looking at the threat assessment protocols, the violence response and prevention protocols, access control, and what we do with visitors when they come into the building during the school day. And then the state had passed a law about all districts having what's called an all-emergency plan done that'll be due next July 1st. And so making sure that that's in place. Really what that is just making sure that we have all the resources and understand the resources that are available to us and basic general protocols for responding to any emergency that could come up. In terms of facilities, Todd's going to talk a little bit, especially about the boiler project. We do have a contract that has come in from EEI. One of the things to know is that when he talks about this and asks the board or recommends, if he does to the board, to approve it, is that it has been vetted by our legal counsel. And they were good with it. They said, no, it's exactly what it needs to be. You've got the right protections in there and the right warrant.
Who is our legal counsel now?
I've been using PHO Lynn.
Okay.
Yep. The other couple of odds and ends here, changes to the open meeting laws from the last legislative session. They've made permanent the COVID era ability to run meetings remotely, but that is only for advisory groups. So like if you have a subcommittee that's basically talking about and studying data to get a recommendation to the board, they could run a meeting remotely. If you are a group that actually can set policy or change policy like this body is here, you have to run a hybrid meeting, and there always has to be a physical location. The other piece that they changed is that the board chair will have to undergo open meeting law training beginning this January. And then the last thing, and I don't think that this is going to affect us, is that they have put in place the excess spending thresholds that they had suspended during the COVID era, where if we're spending above that threshold in terms of dollars per student, we actually get a penalty that's assessed to us. Yeah, so and that's about it, unless there's other
Is it
questions.
the same penalty, 2-1? Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically, they're just putting it back in place. I worry about the districts that use some ESSER money as well as their own regular budget to do facilities work. Because if they're paying off those bonds and it's pushing them over that threshold, they did not put in a provision to protect those districts. So you might have been lucky that he did spend a lot of the ESSER money on big projects.
Any questions for Lane?
Thank you.
No. Principals reports? I was going to say, do we have one? I don't see anybody.
They did send in paper reports that are a part of the packet.
Okay. Let me scooch through that. Sorry.
But I know that some folks are out on vacation. Cheryl, where are you zooming in from?
I'm home. We have the grandchildren here.
Oh, you got, okay.
Yeah, so you might hear some screaming in the background.
She's been out on vacation this week, so she's got a good reason.
Background is blurry.
Is anybody finding those? Because they're not in that long list of things that I opened previously, so.
I don't see it.
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
Double check that.
Okay.
Maybe you can just email links.
Yeah, I was gonna say, maybe when we find it, we can just email. I mean, I'm sure they're pretty basic about opening school and whatever. If they could be emailed to us, and then if there's any questions, people can reach out to the appropriate principal.
Okay.
Seem reasonable to everybody?
Yep.
So when does school start?
August 28th.
August what?
August 28th, first day for the students. Teachers are coming back on the 22nd to do their in-service that Emma has done a fantastic job getting planned for them.
Awesome. Okay, curriculum report. And that is linked. Oh, no, it's not.
It's not.
Well, it says it is, but it's not.
Well, they are all linked on the TRSU website under curriculum reports. You can find them there. I'm wondering, actually, Julie, can I share my screen? Can you?
I think you can. Is it telling you you can't?
It says host isn't allowing multiple presenters.
Is Julie the host?
Well, the Zoom room is the host, is the way we got this thing going, and I'm not really good at controlling this particular thing. So let me see if I can figure out a way to change that.
Okay. I don't know anything about Zoom because we use Google, or not Google, what's it called? Classroom. Hangouts, that's what it's called.
It's not asking you for a code, Emma. It's just saying that.
What's on the screen?
Okay. Just says host isn't allowing multiple presenter sharing for this meeting.
Yeah, I don't know that we have a presenter at all. So I don't know how to get that to happen on here.
So that's fine. I essentially my board report is there's a report that I've written for TRSU, and then the presentation is a presentation that's linked to the report. So I'll just go through. You won't get to see the visuals. You could walk through it if you wanted to from accessing it from the TRSU website. But essentially, it's outlining the work, kind of giving a background into the continuous improvement plan process that was articulated and voted on by you and the state of Vermont approved. So it's the showcasing kind of the report there, but then it's talking more about our leadership retreat that was facilitated at the end of July. It was held at Green Mountain. And essentially the presentation itself just walks through some of the information of why the leadership retreat was planned in the way that it was, linked on how schools improve. And really the focus was on developing action plans that related to the SIPs. So the buildings worked together collaboratively with their building-based teams. Teacher leaders included in that to create action steps that are related to those three goals. Really focusing on, in the slides, you can see it's a triangle where all of these different kinds of pieces go together, where it's whatever we're doing is going to try to think about how we can improve the instructional outcomes in the triangle for students. So any change that we're making, if it's not creating an impact for students in the classroom, then it's pretty much not worth doing. So really getting into the deeper ideas of what we need to do and to ensure those things are happening. Let me go through. So really over those 4 days, they surfaced Two Rivers building-based leadership goals. They created action plans that articulated the change idea or the articulated ideas that were related to the continuous improvement plan change ideas. They also worked on building collective equity and belonging. So in those plans themselves, it's specific to each of the schools and the relation of the principals and the teams building on that. There's some pictures in the slide deck of the teams in action. We also had 2 outside facilitators to support Lane, Julie, and I as in the design from Great Schools Partnership, which was really focused on how we could think about using our equity pulse check to make data-informed decisions about thinking about how we can close the gaps for the most marginalized students, as well as a outside contractor that the AOE has contracted with to use data use in schools. They're called Demonstrated Success. They're based in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And so we had her come on the last day to have the building principals tune their plans and then further collaborate around how we can create effective teams in our schools that relate to that. Also embedded in the slides is some of the feedback from the retreat around how the needs were met for the teachers in terms of feeling valued and respected, trust and inspiration, essential components of building that relational trust. That is the backbone of what we really need in order for those improvement efforts to happen. Just some feedback from the retreat. The energy was really great. They valued the thoughtful planning and facilitation that fostered meaningful discussions, deep reflection around our shared vision. The sessions were impactful, providing valuable insights into data equity and collaboration, while also energizing the team for the upcoming year. The team recognized the importance of continuity and focused on implementation, particularly in addressing equity and supporting all student groups effectively. so really it was really positive, and the momentum is, I think, happened pretty continued. This week I've been working with teachers to kind of onboard new teachers, as well as we've been, Julie and I have collaborated to plan a collaborative planning academy for new staff and for veteran staff. So things are really, the energy is really high, and so we really have some plans to start the school off the year strong, and make some improvements for instruction in the classroom to improve student outcomes.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Emma? Julie?
I was just going to say, I was particularly impressed with the teacher leaders and the other staff that were there. Their level of engagement, and as Emma has said, the excitement was incredible. I have not seen a better working group in my 30 years of education. So they've got a lot to be proud of the work that they've done.
Nice.
And pulling on that, oh, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to add on what Lane was saying. Part of the presentation, the report kind of gives kind of the outline of the 4 days. But in the presentation, I had shared kind of there was a interview that the Harvard Graduate School of Education had done with a man by the name of Justin Cohen. He wrote a book about change agents transforming schools from the ground up. And part of what his research has showed is really schools that actually have met their goals and see real progress are the ones who are engaging with teachers. And this year we've implemented a district leadership team where the school-based teams will be meeting routinely throughout the year together as a district and also in their buildings to kind of really look at the data in order to make those changes, which is what he was seeing. Schools that are really making a lot of changes are engaging the teachers in making those changes. So pulling on what Lane was saying, it's great to have such engagement so early on, and passionate teachers who really want to facilitate change in their buildings.
Thank you. All right, now Julie.
Thanks. And thank you for that summary. I deeply appreciate your and Julie's push for excellence for our schools. And I really appreciate the curriculum updates and the updates on the work you all are doing, because it helps me feel so connected to the mission, the sort of core mission of our district and our schools. One comment is that, and maybe this is unfair because they're not here to hear it, but one idea that I have is I would appreciate if during the principal updates, rather than focusing on the sort of social aspects, what I'll call social, these sort of education adjacent activities like the fairs and those sorts of activities, I really would appreciate hearing more about the sort of direct continuous improvement efforts and progress and things that are happening on that score. I realize there's no item that we vote on necessarily, but again, I find it very engaging as a member of the board, even if it's not, related to my responsibilities. I do appreciate hearing about the work. So I don't know if my colleagues feel the same, but just one comment.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hear about the fairs too, so I know that I should show up, but I agree.
Thank you. And Emma, I was looking through your presentation while you were speaking, and I just noticed that on the leadership retreat reflections, there was a few outliers. And I would assume at some point, hopefully the people who are the outliers would kind of jump on board, or there would be some sort of.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So yes, and we're aware of that, and the building principals are aware, because that's the the aggregate data from all buildings. So it was disaggregated by building for the principals to ensure kind of the needs are being met in their building too. So they are aware. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions for Emma? Perfect. Seems like next up is Todd. Is Todd here?
I am.
You are. Perfect. Oh, you're
Okay,
real there.
Welcome back, everybody. So after our bond failed, we gathered together and discussed the priority list of where we were at with our two schools in LMH. And everybody knew and decided that the boiler in Mount Holly was our main focus. So I came to you with a presentation that EI put together, budgetary number of $245,000. Add 30,000 to that if we wanted to have that boiler connected to our DEC controls, which in layman terms means anybody in my position or the principal facility supervisor there can check on the boiler through their computer, which is a huge asset to have. But it's complicated. It's digital controls. So Eric, EI came back, as Wayne said, with the proposal, 42 pages, which a lot of it is insurance and whatever. We had the lawyer look at it and it's all good. And that price came back at $268,580 with the digital controls in it. So it came back below what he had originally suggested. The only thing that doesn't include, and Cheryl's been helping me out with this, she's looking for propane distributors, and we're having a hard time getting a propane distributor to come and give us a price what it's gonna cost to put the tanks in, whether they're gonna be above ground or below ground. So that cost will be an additional cost on top of this $268,580. Now, EI did their due diligence. They put it out to bid. Cheryl helped out with getting it out in some places. We talked to some people. Eric didn't like the competitive pricing he was getting. He added another week to it and got some what we consider local, mostly Rutland companies, which for us is local for Mount Holly. Everybody likes to think that, Joe's Electrical is gonna come and do this, and when they see the scope of the work, they can't do it. They just, we're, Tom's Boiler Service from East Nowheres, and when they realize they're putting in 1 million BTU condensing boiler, they can't do it. So that includes removing of the oil tank, new boilers, or new boiler at 1 million BTUs. We're gonna increase it by 15%, which even if we're all gone and somebody down the road or next year, whenever it is, and we put an addition on that school at some point, that boiler will be capable of heating that addition. So we're trying to look into the future as well. New pumps, the controls, startup. The only thing we'll have to deal with is getting the propane tanks there. Eric said if we can't get it in time for them to get their startup, they'll put a couple of 100-gallon tanks there just to get it up and running, and it'll be as easy as just connecting the lines. So the people that they ended up hiring, Vermont Mechanical, Alliance Electrical, CTI Controls, and Harper Environmental. And we don't have anybody yet. He doesn't have anybody for the chimney liner. So he's gonna be looking for somebody for that, but that's already included in the price. So after speaking with Lane, we feel this is the right move to make. And we need you guys again to say, yes, we're gonna do this. The money is in capital improvement. It was budgeted. So I hope everybody's still on board with this after all the conversations, and they are prepared to make this happen by October 1st. The boiler's sitting in a warehouse waiting. So
I make a motion, we approve.
Second.
okay. Kelly.
Is there any discussion? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Go ahead, Todd.
Go ahead, Kelly. Go ahead.
I was going to say, is there any discussion?
Yeah, I would recommend adding to the motion that you're also authorizing somebody to sign the letter of acceptance.
Right, I was gonna ask that. Kelly, we're gonna ask that you sign this.
Okay.
So can you authorize somebody in your absence tonight to sign that contract? They would like to get going tomorrow and Friday.
You could authorize me as well.
Yeah, that would work. That's fine as long as it's put in the motion, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a quick question before we vote on it. You said, and Todd, I'm not going to even try to repeat the numbers, but the original estimate from EEI from before versus the current went down, but that the current does not include the propane tanks, but the original estimate would have. Will those two numbers be close in the end, or?
The original number did not include the propane tanks because
Oh, okay.
it would not go out and get competitive pricing for propane because I don't know how the pricing is gonna work. Somebody may price their propane for you owning the tanks or renting the tanks above ground, below ground, and EEI wasn't gonna go that way. That was gonna be on the school district from day one.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So when push comes to shove and we finally figure out the propane piece of this, I realize it'll be a separate vote and all of that, but it will be within the capital improvement budget, probably. I mean, is it close? Yeah. Is it great?
No,
Is it?
We have, I believe, Cheryl can correct me, but I believe there's 350,000 in capital improvement for LMH, and where this project is at 268, 850. So I don't want to guess on what the propane tanks, putting them in or renting them are going to be, but we're not going to be close to that.
Yeah,
Okay.
the 350 is what we're putting in this year. There's already some money in there, but I'd have to go look to see what it was.
Okay, but we're not cutting anything close. That's what I was really concerned about.
No.
Perfect. Okay. Any other discussion?
Amber.
Yeah, two things. You're waiting on the chimney, whatever, the chimney what?
Chimney liner.
Okay, and then what were the 4 companies that you listed out that are included in that plan?
Vermont Mechanical, Alliance Electrical, CTI Controls, and Harper Environmental.
And Kelly, I don't know if you're going to address it, but if not, Dave, did you amend your motion to include Lane's language?
No, no need to.
Okay.
I was waiting till all the questions were done.
I have a question. Todd, this new system is sized for the existing square footage?
It's going to be 15% more BTUs than the existing boiler.
Okay.
Hello.
I mean, I don't know if we will ever have an addition at that school, but if we do, would this system still be useful?
Yeah, so that's why we're going 15% higher. Is
Got it.
If we ever do put an addition on, this boiler will be capable of heating that addition.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Dave, are you ready to amend your motion?
Make a motion that we approve the budget for the boiler and include the signature requirement to whatever it's called.
And letting Lane be the one to sign it, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Second.
All right, so are we ready to vote on the motion, or is there more discussion? All right, sounds like we're ready to vote. So all those in favor of Dave's motion to approve the contract that was just outlined by Todd and asking Lane to be the signer in my absence, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there anybody opposed? Okay, perfect.
Thank you very much.
Started. Thank you.
But before you
Thank
sit
you.
there, I had asked Lane, or Lane had told me that you're working with a new company on a 5-year plan. I don't know if you can tell us.
For Green Mountain, yeah.
For Green Mountain.
Oh, not for
Right
us.
now. Well,
Or
I think that should be a discussion at a different time.
Yeah.
Part of it is you are working with a project management company right now, the EEI.
Yeah.
okay.
Green Mountain, my understanding is, so I'm repeating, I don't want to say secondhand information because it came directly from the sources, but I'm repeating what other folks have told me. It sounds like Green Mountain had some concerns about EEI And so we were looking at a different project management route to potentially replace for Green Mountain. One of the things that they do, which was nice, was that they will come in, they'll do a full assessment within the buildings within the district. It's basically a 5-year plan of prioritizing, okay, this is what you need to do first, this is what you need to do second, this is what you need to do third. They'll break it down into the things that are critical and the things that are nice, but not really necessary. And most importantly, they'll also put the priority order in terms of, okay, we don't want to do anything here that's going to get undone when we do this here. So they make sure that the work is done in the correct order.
Okay. I mean, so I don't have a view about who should do it, whether it's EEI or whether we should get somebody else, only that, I mean, we know that the Ludlow roof needs to be done soon. And I think we agreed last year that we didn't want to have a bond vote at the same time as the budget vote.
Right.
And it's sort of implying that if we want to have a bond vote that includes the Ludlow roof and some number of other things, that we ought to get moving on it so that we can have the vote in December, and not right next to the budget vote time.
I mean, EI has laid out, the project that got voted down. We could pick and choose and take some things out and move some things in, or try to get a very small bond passed to do the roof and some windows. And I would strongly suggest if we ever do anything as a bond, that the LED lights are at the top of our list. Change the lighting and move us into the future as far as lighting goes.
Just as the most important.
I mean, we could go with a much smaller bond and still do some very major improvements, or move along in the direction we are now. Like, one of the big things we need to do is change that boiler. Next year, keep putting money into capital improvement and take care of the roof at Ludlow, or add some windows on the side of the playground where they feel those are the oldest and in the most disrepair. I think there's a couple of things we could talk about as a facilities committee or as a board together, and which way we want to go, or move and try to pass it, try to see if we can get another bond passed.
Yeah, should the facilities committee try to schedule a meeting before our next board meeting?
Sure.
And then is there any other questions, any guidance from opinions from board members about what, should we be aiming for something? And I assume that the Ludlow roof is too expensive to be doing out of operating.
I don't know that.
Yeah, no.
Or not out of operating, but I don't know, with capital improvement funds, I wouldn't want to say, because we haven't had some Vermont roofers or had a roofing company come in and say, what would it cost us to change?
I mean, but my recollection is it was in the order of $1 million.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, in the old one. Anyway,
You should be able to replace that whole roof for $800,000.
We did one at Green Mountain for $800,000.
Yeah, we just did one too.
Yeah.
So if you had to.
Right.
You need one.
Yeah, I mean, great. I mean, again, it seemed like we had a long list of things that really ought to be done last time.
Sure.
And I'm not sure how we pick and choose, and whether do we aim for something half that size?
I think Todd's suggestion of the facilities team or facilities subcommittee meeting is probably a good idea. I don't have in front of me who is on that. I believe I was. I'm not sure if I still am, but if Todd and one of us can figure out a day and shoot out a doodle poll or a whatever works, I would say, it doesn't have to be at 6, but in the evening so people can show up. I think that would move us along.
We may need to look at who's on it, because I wasn't on it. I just went to the meetings. But Judy was on it. I'm not sure we actually have a constituted committee.
Yeah, I think we redid it. It might have been one of those ones we taped. Yeah, because we have to at our annual meeting. So we would have, but some of those we tabled because we didn't have a full board yet. So I think if we look at it, we can figure that out. I know there's at least somebody on it.
Yeah, we put Dave Martin on it and Kelly on it, and then I had volunteered to be on it, but my name never showed back up on the paper. So
okay.
those were the three that were on it, but there were others of us that were going, other people that were going.
Right. So if Maria, Dave, and Kelly, and Todd, and Lane can make a time, I mean, I'm coming home Monday, so, I can be in person after that. And we'll get together maybe shortly after school starts, not the first week, but the second week or so. And then just see what people's availability is on a doodle poll. And then I think it'll be easier than doing it here tonight with so many of us kind of in cyber world.
Sure.
That seem reasonable?
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yes.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Todd. And then Cheryl.
Thank you. So I wanted to be here tonight to talk about the closing out of FY24. You ended up with a surplus of $181,663.33, leaving your fund balance at $679,555. And we have committed what we had remaining, started the year off with a fund balance to the FY25 budget. So $497,895 of that is committed to the 25 budget. So Lane and I have talked, and Lauren and I had talked about this previously as well, as instead of putting that money back as a revenue source, is that we start putting it into like a capital reserve to address some of these, repairs and upgrades that we need to deal with on that one. But that's going to come in the budget discussion. So where that money came from, we had a savings in salary, about $100,000 in benefits associated with that. Repair and maintenance, we were over. Some of that has to do with the PFAS, but we got reimbursed from our health insurance, our liability property insurance for that one. Tuition, we were over budget, $68,000, which is not terribly bad. We budgeted for 130 students. We only had 124, but we budgeted an average of $16,545 tuition, and we came in at $18,695. So that tuition is really creeping up there. And I've seen some schools that are going to go higher for 25 than what we had budgeted. Everybody's cost is going up, and that's part of that. So, and then we had a little bit of revenue that was in addition to what we had. We got reimbursed for some of the PFAS expenses that we hadn't gotten insurance for. I think I told you at the June meeting I was having trouble with the insurance company, and they did come through and we got all that money. And food service, because of the universal meals and going CEP, we ended up with a surplus on that one from a revenue standpoint, but we always end up in a deficit for food service. So does anybody have any?
Cheryl?
Yes.
What is CPE?
Oh, community eligibility provision. So they look at the all the students on free direct cert. So a direct certification means that they have some sort of state programming that they're receiving benefit from, which includes Medicaid as well. And they take that percentage of our students, and then they have it's a formula.
I know what you mean.
1.6, and then those students are free, and then the other ones are paid. Normally, we would have to pick up that paid piece of it, but because we have universal meals, we're reimbursed fully for all of our meals, and we don't collect any money for the students. So there's also that financial is in the folder, as well as the special revenues, the capital and transportation reserve, all the student activities, all those other funds, that's in the folder as well.
Perfect.
If anybody has any questions, if not, I'm going to pop off and go play with the grandkids.
Sure.
Any questions for Cheryl? All right, go enjoy.
Thank you. See you next month.
Bye.
Bye.
It's trying to load. There we go. Discuss the subcommittee. I think this was the subcommittee. We were going to call it innovations or something along those lines. I know is Jamie here?
Are we skipping limited school choice?
Sorry, did I skip something?
Yeah, limited school choice.
Oh, I did. Sorry. Okay, let's go to limited school choice. So the last time I missed June's meeting too. Sorry, I had a work commitment. And we had talked about the month before how we are always sort of having to, at the end of the school year, make some decisions, and then that just having some of that paperwork and talking about it, and tightening it up and making it some policy and having that information for us would be better, to discuss it. I haven't been able to look at it, obviously, because I either lost it or didn't get it prior to the meeting. So I don't feel like I could discuss it except from somewhat of a historical perspective, because I was on the board when we originally started doing it. But I certainly haven't refreshed my memory at all. So I don't know what other people are thinking, or if we should really just put a bigger discussion in on it in September.
One question, one of our ideas when we had this discussion when May or June, whenever that was that since we have more capacity, should we be willing to accept more kids? As I was reading through the agreement, it wasn't clear whether the sending district needs to also agree to let us take those kids and give us the money from them. So it wasn't, I mean, it didn't look like we could unilaterally amend the agreement, that we have to have discussions with the Green Mountain Board and the TRSU board. And,
Okay.
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah, you have an agreement that's in effect that limits the exchange to 6 students per district. And so to be able to change that, both sides would have to be willing to change what's in place.
And so in effect, when we were having a discussion in May about accepting more students, we didn't really have the right to do that, perhaps. Unilaterally.
Probably not.
Right?
I'll say that.
Right.
I mean, we would, right? And it might be that Green Mountain wouldn't really want Cavendish to be sending more than 6 kids our way.
The way that the contract is, and I've only read through it once, is that the sending district, and Cheryl she's off. The sending district receives the ADM from the state, right? And then that ADM is split between the 2 districts. And so that would be the money exchange. So, they would lose half an ADM if they were sending more students here. There are a couple of wording things that are just boilerplate that probably should be cleaned up if folks are going to work on this again. But I noticed kind of going through Article 4. Right, it says the program shall be implemented until dissolved by the 2 school boards involved. And then you have a procedure and there may be a reason for this that I'm unaware of. The procedure requires the boards to vote on it every year. And so those 2 things seem to be in conflict unless there's a reason. Yeah.
I think that the vote has always been, do we wish to continue with it? And we've sort of always said yes without really looking at the details of it. And I think as the board has changed, we've lost sight of the details, and I think it's good that we're revisiting it.
And then Article 11, for some reason, I think it's probably just a typo. It says the foregoing articles of agreement may be amended or dissolved by a vote of 2 of the 4 participating school boards. So I'm wondering if this was in place before consolidation.
Yes. Correct.
So those are the only 2 kind of wording things. Other than that, it's a pretty good agreement in terms of all the provisions in there, and it's very thoughtful about how students might return, and if this gets dissolved, that students that are already exchanged would stay there through graduation. So, it's a well thought out plan.
But the reason it was on the list is because it seemed like every April or May we're having a discussion about should we accept a 7th student, and somehow that became a board decision.
Oh, there's the state school choice. which is a separate process where
Right.
every year districts will state what they will take from other districts around the state and how many students they will let leave. So
No,
I'm not sure-
what Dave is mentioning, Lane, is in fact this document that we're forever,
Okay,
right. So Julie had her hand up.
It sounds like, from what I understand, there is essentially a lottery system at the initial level of this thing where interested people put their names in, and then there's a random selector, and then I understand that Lauren's instructions to people who were unhappy with the outcome of the lottery was that they could appeal to the board. And my problem with this process is that at the first level, it was blind to the reasons. Like, I just assume if you put your name in this thing, you have a good reason. And it's not my business as a board member to judge like whose reason is better. The problem I had with how we had been doing it for the past few years is that the reasons became very much of a component of the decision, which to me seems inherently unethical, because why should the reasons matter when it gets to the board level, but they don't matter in the first pass? I think in the last time we had a parent who was, very sort of earnestly conveying her case on behalf of her kid. And it just seems inappropriate to me that we would get into that sort of like lobbying. I don't think I am completely fine with having a process for this. It sounds like it answers some needs, and I don't disagree with my board colleagues who think we have some interest in absorbing more students in our system where we can. That all sounds reasonable to me. I just don't want those decisions, those sort of final decisions or an appeal decision to come before the board. There should be a local process at, the leadership level in the district that resolves these questions in some way that you decide is appropriate and fair. I don't think these are board votes.
yeah, I'm agreeing with you, especially that I call this internal school choice, right? It's kind of within the TRSU. There is a separate school choice that's at the state level that you have to decide on numbers for. But your points about equity and fairness, if folks are considering special circumstances and special cases, the only way that those decisions could be just and fair is if we have a written protocol for which special circumstances are way more than others, right? So that everybody who comes in can expect a fair outcome based upon the rules that we put in place, instead of just people off the cuff going, yeah, I think you've got a better argument than our other parent over here. So I would be happy to work on that, putting together. It'll happen at our level. If there's an appeal, then maybe it goes to the superintendent. And these are the priorities. This is how we're going to prioritize who gets in if an argument ensues about it.
Just the fact that we've had to go through exceptions 2 years in a row says to me that there's like a fundamental systems question about whether the current thresholds are too confining for our purposes. And I would look at, either expanding or not having a fixed number or, some other solution. So, because if you have a policy that every year you need to make an exception to, then I think you have a policy problem.
I agree. There's nothing magic about 6 when we first developed it. So there wasn't, that was years ago. It was just decided that if too many people left one school, it might be too bad. But in this day and age, everybody's looking for kids.
it has a financial impact that we have to consider both ways. Right now, if people are trying to come into our district, it feels good to us, but if we were losing that money, it would be a different feeling. So I think, you know, we should look at the things, maybe each of us sort of writes down our list of thoughts and then come back to it in September. And maybe Lane can, you know, with his thoughts, we can, and then draft something that's a little more finite, and then we could present it to the people we need to present it to. I think some of it, honestly, is just a matter of us remembering what's in that contract and following it. I think some of that would be alleviated.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have a problem if the agreement gave more flexibility to the superintendent to make decisions or exceptions with some guidelines, so that it doesn't get back up to the board. I mean, last time it was a sibling was in, and the question was, the other sibling would push them over the, you know, one sibling won the lottery and the other one didn't, and I don't, you know.
Right. And that at one point I thought that was in the contract. So I think it's just a matter of really understanding the contract, and with so many new board members, making sure that we're there. And it was new to Lauren at the time too, and it's gone through several superintendents. So I think all of us being more educated on what is in the contract, and then if we have any tweaks still, we can visit that in September.
Mm-hmm.
I'm totally happy to defer to Lane on whatever policy or procedure he thinks is appropriate here. I don't feel like I need to, I just, my interests are, you know, equity, fairness, and honestly, I'm just not sure this is the sort of thing that the board has a role in. So if like from my perspective, I would be happy for the districts to create something they think is fitting and, you know, share it with us at a future meeting.
Thank you. Jen.
This may be a very easy answer just because I'm still new. Where would I find the contract to update myself on it?
That's what I'm saying is I didn't get it either, Jen. So I haven't been able to reread it. So if we can just get it sent to us, and then we can really sort of make comments and then bring it back to discuss it in September.
Should also be on the website. I'll check on that too.
Thank you. Discuss. Oh, are we ready to move on to discussing the subcommittee? Sounds like it. So the subcommittee was an idea that Jamie had brought up. There's lots of little things, lots of thoughts that people have out in the community that come back to us as board members, that like, what can we do on it, and when is the right time to discuss it? And Lauren, I believe it was, mentioned that Green Mountain had put together an innovations committee and sort of talked a little bit about what that was looking like. And it seemed like that would fit our purpose as well. And so do we want to go forth and create an innovations committee? And if so, who would like to be on it? And then we would have to sort of give them a charge or a task, I would assume. How do people feel or see that working?
Green Mountain doesn't have an innovation committee, it's some other name, as I recall. But at any rate, we used to have an innovation committee here before.
Okay.
6. And I would volunteer to be on it.
I mean, I think the first task for me would be sort of, you know, what are the people, what are the top 3 things people are hearing or saying that they want to discuss at an innovations committee? And then as a board, us sort of prioritizing that maybe, and then tasking the innovations committee with those priorities. Is that what you're envisioning, Dave? Because it must have been in my hiatus.
It used to be a sort of a think tank kind of committee that didn't have any power per se, but people would bring up ideas and we'd run them up the flagpole and see if there was any validity to them and what we needed. And if there was, then we would present that to then a formal board, which did have voting capability to yay or nay it. And it was pretty helpful with several items. Unfortunately, I don't remember them. And it was a very, and I know in this day and age it probably can't be done, but it's a very unstructured committee. There wasn't a lot of bureaucracy with it. And it was people thinking and not throwing stones at any idea or throw things against the wall and see what sticks. It's that kind of a committee. And of course, we would have to be comfortable with that kind of a thing if we did it.
Can't do that in the open forums, it's not.
Okay, yeah.
Right. Are there other people who would like to join Dave? I think Jamie would. Other people who would like to join Dave on that committee to get it sort of started. And then I think obviously inviting community members is important. I would think after, one meeting to sort of get your wheels turning and then invite stakeholders from the community and the school and that sort of thing. Is that what it was, Dave?
Yeah, and I know Craig would be involved and very interested in it because he was on the original one also.
Okay. Anybody want to join Dave?
I'll speak at once.
Maybe we can reach out to Jamie and see if she wants to join with you, Dave, and then you guys can meet maybe virtually the first time and then come up with a little more structured plan for us for September, and then we'll put the real deal together in September.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they're always open meetings. I think at least the first one I've planned to attend, and then depending on where it's going, decide whether I'm going to make a longer term commitment.
Sure. Okay, sounds good. So we'll get Dave and Jamie together and then do a little preliminary organization and then move forward more earnestly in September.
Right.
Sounds like a plan. Second read of G1 curriculum development and coordination, which was in.
It's on the list. It's in the packet.
In the packet. I found it. I just can't get back to it. Sorry. Packet. There we are.
Doesn't look very controversial.
No, they're all pretty boilerplate, right? I'm just trying to get there. Any discussion about this? All right. Somebody want to make a motion?
I have a question. I guess I'm curious, since we have, Emma and Julie here with us, if they are satisfied with the language of the policy and they feel that it is, fitting their work and.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, then I'm good.
Somebody want to make a motion?
Did we do a first read on it?
Oh, sorry. I thought it said second read.
It says second read, but then in the little table down at the bottom, it doesn't show that we ever did a first read.
Did you discuss it at your last meeting?
I think I discussed this at our committee meeting in June.
So that's a subcommittee?
That's
It was discussed on the June 12th.
Yeah, we were at the TRS.
No, but it was discussed here on the June 12th minutes.
Okay, thank you.
That's the big one.
At least the minutes you just.
Okay, so then it's right for a second reading.
Yeah. Okay. So again, do we have a?
I'll move we accept it.
A second.
All right. Any more discussion? All right. All those in favor of passing policy G1, curriculum development and coordination, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Perfect. All right, moving along. New business. We did not have any on the agenda. TRSU board report. Julie, do you have anything to add for that?
Sure. Well, I guess what I would update this board on is that last month, Dave Martin and I attended the retreat, the all board retreat at Green Mountain with the facilitator, and he and I were the only two from this board. So obviously it wasn't a we didn't have a quorum and we didn't take any votes, but we did talk about some goals, TRSU identified goals. I believe Green Mountain did as well. We have not yet voted on the TRSU goals, but Dave and I did generate some goals for this board based on conversations we have had. And were those circulated? I received them by email, but I don't know if I received them because I attended. Did you all receive the goal document?
I feel like I did, but I can't pull it up right now.
Okay.
Because of my email issues that I have to get it cleaned up. But I believe I did glance through it and I have it, but I don't recall it.
So be resent, right?
Yeah, I mean, we can resend. There were 6 items that Dave and I talked about for this board, and we've already talked about some of them tonight. Would it be helpful if I read them, or do you want to do it by email and then talk about them the next meeting?
I think that would be easier for me.
Sure.
Yeah, I know that puts a lot on next time the agenda, but I think we can look at things and just make quick comments and we'll have the information.
And then I don't know if this is something we traditionally vote on. I didn't go to the retreat last year, so I'm sort of.
If we're going to do goals, then yes, we would vote on the goals as our board, just like TRSU does for the TRSU board, right?
Okay, so we can do that next time. Now, the other thing that came up and was of great interest, I would say, to TRSU and the Green Mountain folks was adopting a new system of governance that is called policy governance. And it's sort of a different way of the school board interacting with the administration. And I think that that board, and I will not be able to sort of capture what it in a helpful way what exactly it is, but my understanding is that really the board then becomes the manager or the of the policies rather than the actual work of achieving the policies. And so that's sort of the superintendent then becomes accountable to the policy, achieving the policy goals. I think there was a feeling that it in some ways more clearly identifies the roles between the board versus the administration. And there was great interest on the Green Mountain and TRSU side in moving toward a system like that. Of course, if our board is interested in that, we would have to, take a vote and then engage in, I think, not an insignificant amount of training and, preparation for moving toward a system like that. Like they're talking about, with the help of someone from BSBA, like a 1 or 2 day retreat on this topic. And it's not my impression, and so that was the factual update. My editorializing is that it's not clear to me whether that necessarily serves our board, because we have a much smaller and homogeneous population. We have 2 elementary schools. It's a sort of simpler system on our side. But I leave it to you all, and Lane, please, I haven't really explained it well, but if there's something else you want to say on this topic, please.
That's my fault, because the system blew up the day I did the presentation. So if you're confused, it's probably because I confused folks. I think to start off is that if you have a well-functioning board and you have a good relationship with the superintendent, and that hasn't fallen apart in the past, I don't think this is going to do a lot for you. What it would do if you adopted it is there are basically 3 things that you got to keep track of. There are ends. So in other words, as a board, you develop the goals that you want to establish for the district. There are means. That's how the goals get accomplished. The means are left up to the superintendent, the administrative team, and the staff and the districts to figure out the best way to achieve the goals. And then you have what are also called executive limitations. And those are the things that you tell us we cannot do when we're pursuing your goals, right? You don't want us to break the law. You don't want us to treat people poorly. You don't want us to be unethical. Those sorts of things. And so what you end up doing is you control our management of the district through the policies that you establish. And then it's my job to prove that, we're following the policies that you've done over the course of time. It's a really good system if there's been tension between the board and the superintendent. It's a really good system if there's a lot of controversy as well, because it really establishes this is your responsibility, this is my responsibility. I'll take the hits for what's mine, you take the hits for what's yours, and so it's a really good way of settling things if there's a lot of controversy in the district. I don't hear that you have that.
Sounds to me like more bureaucracy. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
Yeah. No, my impression from the meeting was that first of all, that it's a new Green Mountain board, and it's a very different board from what it was a couple of years ago. And to them, it was important to do something like this in order to reset the way that they interact with the management and with each other.
After the mascot.
Yeah, well, but it wasn't only the mascot. I think there's been sort of
there's been a lot.
Long history of health and having issues with the administration about what's their job and what's the administration's job. And so, first of all, I was very impressed with the current Green Mountain board and with their willingness to try to work things out and develop procedures that'll make them more functional going forward. But I think as Lane was suggesting, that it didn't seem necessary for us to spend a whole lot of time working these things. I think I'd be interested in looking at what they've developed. Right. And then as they do a bunch of the work, looking at it and saying, well, maybe we want to tag along on some of this. But to me, it didn't seem important for us to spend a whole lot of time going to the training and learning about how this all works, when we could sort of watch it from a distance. And as long as we continue the collegial atmosphere that we've had back and forth, that as Dave said, I don't think it is broke here. And so we don't need to spend a lot of time and trying to fix it.
It's actually
Any other? Go ahead, Lane. I was just ask if there were any other thoughts. No?
If you keep us informed over the months as to what they're doing and how it's going, and even getting copies of the policies as they develop them, then they'll be interesting to us. But like I said, I don't think we need to jump through a whole lot of hoops.
Yeah. No, and I'm not in disagreement.
Perfect. All right. Policy committee.
We're meeting next, I think September 9th is our next meeting.
Perfect. And we had just the one for tonight, so we're good. And then you'll bring more for October.
Yeah, you've got a couple. He's gonna do an audit, so I'll send them your way.
Okay. Policy committee, facilities committee, we've heard from Todd. Facilities committee is gonna meet. I would, say if we could meet, sometime like maybe like the 10th. Our meeting will be the 11th. It's early. That's what it's hard. If we could meet like the 9th or 10th of September, that would be before our meeting and after school gets kind of underway a little bit. And that would be great if people can look for an email about a doodle poll or whatever.
9th is the policy committee, so I wouldn't be able to go to the facilities meeting on the 9th.
Oh, right. Are they on the same night? Yeah, we wouldn't want to do that. Or we could do them one before the other if that works, Maria.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Okay. Sometimes I'd rather just do it all in one night, but other people don't. It's good. All right. So we'll still doodle poll that and see where people land. Sorry, I keep switching tabs here. Second public comment. Did anybody join us that I haven't noticed? No? Okay. Our next meeting will be September 11th at 6 in the Mount Holly and on Zoom. Our board self-evaluation, board members are given and have read the agenda and background materials prior to the meeting. I feel like I didn't do a great job there tonight. I don't know what other people are thinking.
More or less. Get into the swing of things come next month.
Yeah, it felt a little disjointed to me, but that's okay. We were respectful of each other and of the administration. I feel like we did a good job on that one. Everybody agrees.
Yeah.
And then we handled conflict openly and constructively.
Okay.
Feel like we did a good job there. Focus on the roles and responsibility of the board. Yep, and board members acted as a team. Once a decision had been made, we worked collaboratively throughout the decision-making process.
Yep.
Yes.
And I think we did a good job. All right. And one other thing real quick, Lane, will you just make sure that once Amber gets these meeting minutes out, all the little things that we've said we'll get to the board members an email about kind of come hopefully in one email so they're not disjointed would be my hope.
I got a laundry list here. I'm going to talk with Kelly in the morning.
Good. All right. And, other Kelly. Sorry. I was like, you might not get me in the morning, but okay. All right. Make a motion.
So made.
All right. Second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right.
Thanks,
See you
folks.
guys next time. Thank you.